Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you, as is usual. We're going to continue on now and do another Bavarian beer for you. This guy comes from the Allgäu Brauhaus, and it's a southwestern Bavarian beer, and the bottle of this guy really caught my eye when I was in the supermarket, which is why I bought it. So we're going to have a look at their Altenmünster range from the Allgäu Brauhaus. They've got about 3 or 4 different ranges, but we're going to have a little look at the Urig Würzig beer. So as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll take you through a brief history of the brewery, tell you a little bit about where the beer's from, although as I always say, you can simply go forward to the second half of the video to catch the tasting. I'll put the little box up here, and the link to my future Allgäu Brauhaus videos are in the video description, along with the website for the brewery. So, to tell you about the history of this brewery, it's another brewery that seems to have several constituent breweries under their wings. Just so you know exactly who we're talking about here, the brewery is from a little village called Kemptem, in which, or a little village called Kemptem, which is the largest town in the Allgäu region of Germany in southwest Bavaria. The town is just to the southwest of Munich. It's actually very close to the Austrian border, not far from Liechtenstein actually. But the brewery originates from the monastery in Kemptem, which was founded in the year 752, and since its foundation there's been a brewery at this monastery. But in 773 Queen Hildegard promoted the monastery of Kemptem, and her husband Charlemagne confirmed the rights and property of the monastery. Now the documents from 1394 have actually shown that the brewery trade was flourishing, and this is the origin of Allgäu Brauhaus AG today. Now in 1556 we have the first documentary mention of the tavern being on the mountain next to the Stift, and apparently the Café zum Stift is the oldest building in the square of Kempten today. But in 1678, Rupert von Bodman, Prince Abbot of Kempten, helped establish the reputation of the Stift Brauerei when he ordered that no privately brewed beer would be brewed in the town, and all beer must be brewed in the stately brewery. Now in 1680, Prince Abbot of Bodman founded the White Brauhaus, in which the first wheat beers of the town were produced, and this is a major part of the town's tradition today. Later on in 1786, the Brauhaus was actually burnt to the ground, and under the guidance of Prince Abbot Rupert, the new building was constructed and began operations in under 2 years, and this building apparently also hosted the music school and the Kunsthalle. Now, following the secularisation that came around in the 1800s, brewmaster Martin Lechte took over the brewery, but only as a tenant, and then in 1923 he became the full owner, and apparently he managed to meet 2/3 of the town's demand for beer with his brewing. And in 1899 the civil brewery was established by brothers August and Robert Coakley, which further advanced the Kempten reputation in brewing. In 1901, Richard Herle formed the Allendorf Brauhaus, and he is regarded as a pioneer of modern brewing in Germany. And this brewery brewed the Teutsch Pils for the first time, and this beer ended up being exported worldwide, and it was apparently also served on board the famous Zeppelins in Germany in the early 20th century. And 1906 also saw the brewery expand their building with the construction of a new brewery on Stiftplatz, and this was designed by the Kempten architect Ambros Mediner, and they also expanded their brewery restaurant in 1907 as well. So as you can see, the years before the First World War were of major expansion for the brewery. But in 1911 the Allgäu Brauhaus AG was established as a private share company in the name of August Weixler, and by 1921 a number of the small regional breweries had found a home as a member of the Allgäu Brauhaus group, and so the corporation is regarded to be the guardian of more than 600 years of German or Bavarian brewing tradition, I should say. In 1937, this saw the foundation of the Allendorf brewery, and this saw them join the Allgäu group. I mentioned those guys a minute ago in the history there. But in 1950, the first of the Allgäu Bubel beers was actually introduced, and this beer is actually a very popular one across Germany. You find it in a number of the Rewe supermarkets and the Kaufland things. You find it all over the place. It's a very, very popular beer in Germany, and it's supposed to be very good. But on this particular beer here, on the Altenmünster range of beers, in 2003 the Allgäu brewery took over the Altenmünster brewers beer, whose tradition goes back to the foundation of the wheat beer tavern Zum Adler. A year later, the brewery celebrated the opening of its new facility in the Obendorf district of Leutershach, and however the administrative part of the business would remain in Kempten. But in 2011 they also introduced a beer called the Allgäu Brauhaus Original, which is brewed in accordance with the old brewing traditions of Kempten, so it should be quite a cool one there. So as I mentioned, 2003 was when the Altenmünster beers joined the Allgäu Brauhaus group. So, just as I mentioned before, there are about 4 different ranges of beers that you can get from this brewery. In the Allgäu range, you get the Fest beer, the Easterfest beer, or Osterfest beer as you would say in German, Winterfest beer, the Steinbock, the Zwickel, and the Keller beer. In the Bubel beer range, as I mentioned, one of the very popular ranges that these guys do throughout Germany, you get the Edelbräu, the Edelweissbier, the Bayerisch Hell, the Urbayisch Dunkel, and also the Radler beer. And these bottles are quite recognisable because of the little boy in the green who's on the label of them. In the Klassiker range, you get the Deutsch Pils, as I mentioned, the one that was on the Zeppelins there. You get the Urtype Export, the Feuerstabed Hefeweizen, Feuerstabed Hefeweizen Licht, and you also get the Weisse. And in the Altenmünster range, which is the final range that you get from this brewery, you get the Urig Würzig, this guy, which is a premium lager. You get the Hopvik Herb, and I have a bottle of this that I'll try and review for you before I go home if I have time. You get the Hefeweizen, the Maibock, and the Winterbier. And the Winterbier from these guys is actually supposed to be very nice. But that's your brief history of the Allgäu Brauhaus and the Altenmünster range. So let's just get on with the tasting of this guy now. This is a 4.9% premium lager. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the bottle here. It's a really nice one actually. It actually looks quite Arabic with this little symbol here. I couldn't find out exactly what the symbol said, but this is the main label on it. These beers only have a top label, and as you can see, it says Altenmünster Braubier Urig Würzig Premium Lager, 4.9% volume. It has the Allgäu Brauhaus address from Kemptem up there. This guy also has the same thing that's on the label here, the nice little symbol. It does really look quite Arabic actually. It looks like some of these lamps that you would find. It looks like the Aladdin lamp actually. It's quite cool. But as you can see, it's got this again on the pop top here. So let's get it open and get on with the tasting. In fact, sorry, just before you do that, you can see the nice glasswork on the bottle here, and it says Altenmünster on the top. So a really cool bottle of beer actually, and like I say, that was what actually made me buy it. But it's a 4.9% premium lager, or Pils beer I guess you would say. Decent opening, not so much smoke coming off of this guy, but let's get it into the glass and see how we get on. As you can see, it definitely looks like a lager, crystal clear, sort of golden colour. I'll just leave a little bit out and we'll give it a proper smell. But yeah, as you can see, crystal clear colour, quite a bit of carbonation visible in this guy, a 2-finger white frothy head, a little bit of bigger bubbles coming there, but mainly a frothy head. The aroma of this guy is actually, it's rather unusual I feel like. There's a good bit of earthy and cereal character in there I think. Yeah, a little bit of earthiness and cereal character in there. There's some caramel and sort of honey brown sugar malt I think too. But it's quite an unusual one. I'm not picking up the usual sort of bready notes, but there is a cereal and earthy character to it. But you really aren't picking up too much of the bready notes or the normal grassy notes that you pick up. Usually with these kind of beers you pick up the grassy notes on the sort of sharp end of the nose, and then if you take it in a bit more deeply you get the bready notes, but this guy doesn't seem to have that. It's got like I say, it's got an unusual kind of earthy and maybe just even a little bit of a caramel nose to it. It's a very unusual smelling beer. Let's just get the rest of this out and see if we can get any more from it. But yeah, it is very unusual. You can see it's got a nice German convex head on it there, just a 2-finger white frothy head. Let's get ready for this guy then. So as you can see, as I mentioned before, really kind of nice crystal clear bottle, or crystal clear body, sorry. It's got some nice bubbles just going up to the top, white frothy head, 2 fingers. I'm really not getting used to the aroma of this guy. Like I say, very, very unusual. But yeah, it's earthy, and it doesn't even have a little bit of grassy or bready character. It's earthy and cereal, I would say, with this one. Very unusual, but let's give it a taste and see how we get on. 4.9% premium lager from the Allgäu Brauhaus Altenmünster range. Yeah, it is quite a, I think it's quite an earthy kind of character to the flavour as well. It's actually got quite a bit of a, it's almost like a barley malt taste in fact, this one. And there's a spiced kind of grainy flavour going in there too, and it kind of sort of blends into the earthy character, I would say. It does have a bready flavour, but it really, like I say, really not apparent in the aroma. It does have a nice German white bread flavour to it, but it has a bit of a barley malt and spiced cereal to it, and that blends quite well with a little bit of the earthy character that's there. Yeah, it's a very, the other thing that's getting me with this guy is it's a really smooth beer, slightly oily. So it's a very slick one. That's the other first impression I'm getting of this guy. But like I say, it's opening up with a nice kind of barley-ish malt base with a little bit of kind of spiced grainy flavour and some earthy character. There is a little bit of caramel to it, but the hops on the end are quite unusual as well. They're not so prominent in the grassy and sort of grassy flavours. Yeah, it doesn't have a very prominent grassy flavour at all. It's almost as if the hops, there's not even so much of a little bitterness. The hop flavour is quite hard to pick up on this one, to pinpoint exactly what it is. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit, I don't know if it's a maybe kind of vegetal hop, but this is mainly a kind of malty lager beer, if you like. There really isn't so much of a hop character to it, but at the same time you do get there is just a tiny little bit of kind of grassy freshness that comes in the aftertaste, but there really isn't a little hop bite from this guy at all, which is quite unusual. So in terms of the mouthfeel, it's very light bodied. As I mentioned before, slightly oily. It's a very smooth one and quite crisp. It's a very easy drinking beer, this guy. It is quite interesting. It's, in my opinion, it's a very fresh beer, but it needs a little bit more hop, I think. It needs something just to give it a little bit of bite after the malt base. But I think maybe what's happening with this beer is the sort of earthy hop character is blending a lot with the malt flavours, and then you're just getting, the hops aren't coming out so well on it, and you're just getting a little bit of the kind of grassy character in the aftertaste. That earthy kind of bready, cereally bread flavour is kind of lingering on the tongue as well. So it's quite an interesting one. It's not a conventional lager beer, if you like. So if you want something that's a little interesting, give it a try. It is fairly nice, but like I say, it's a very kind of unusual blend of flavours. It's maybe not the best balanced lager I've had, but if you want something that's a little bit different, give it a try. And it's in a cool bottle, so that's why I bought it at the end of the day. So in terms of a lager beer, if you like your sort of quite malty lagers with a little bit of an earthy character, this is a guy for you to look at. It has a nice little bit of cereal spice in there that kind of brings out the earthy character in an interesting way. Just a little underlying of caramel, brown sugar in there probably as well, but very mild. Mainly a kind of bready, barley sort of cereally spiced earthy character to this one. Quite a malty lager anyway. But if you do happen to have tried this beer yourself, really with this one, please let me know, because maybe I'm picking this up a little bit wrong and getting the wrong end of the stick with it. But I hope you've enjoyed the beer review. Let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer. Like I say, check out the brewery website if you're interested in learning a bit more about the Allgäu Brauhaus. And I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As I say, please like, subscribe, share, the whole usual YouTube shebang if you like. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I'll be back with more German beer reviews, hopefully quite a few of them to do before I head home. Cheers.